So this is coming out on a Tuesday, but today I am feeling sun-dazed. And I'm not sorry for that. Hello to the internet, my name's Montgomery, and we're here to talk about the things that make you say, who even am I? And today we're gonna talk about control, even though I really don't want to. I've been under the weather and a blanket because outside doesn't know what it's doing and my body is revolting. So I've had a little bit of a chest cold, lots of coughing and sore throatness going on. Beyond that, I kind of don't want to talk about this because it's an uncomfortable subject for me to unpack, which means it's probably really important too. So I say that because my leading indicator to know when I'm not doing well, when I'm in an unhealthy space, is to kind of look at how much I'm struggling with the need to feel like I'm in control. Or even maybe a little bit more directly, if I feel like I'm not in control, if I am specifically aware that I am currently not in control. That really just kind of depends on like how much self-awareness I'm practicing, because if I'm currently in a space where I'm not really watching myself too much, I may not be aware of what's going on, and I might be performing behaviors that are seeking control without realizing that I feel like I'm out of control. Or if I am very self-aware, I'll feel and understand, hey, I currently do feel like I have no control over what's going on, and that is causing me a lot of anxiety. And then I express the need for control in different ways, and I'll talk about both of those things because they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. But I'll kind of cut to the chase first and say that the truth of the matter is that I'm never in control. None of us ever are. We have absolutely no control over what goes on. We just kind of like to pretend like we're powerful enough to shape favorable outcomes out of situations in our life. And sure, there's something to be said about the fact that if we show up and we do the work, then it's much more likely that things are going to go correctly or in our favor. But that's not true. Sometimes you show up, you do the work, and things don't go in your favor at all. And that just is gonna happen sometimes. And it's really important to stay aware of that. I have found for myself that it's really important to keep myself aware of the fact that even if I show up and do the work, it might not go my way, is always a possibility. Mostly just to keep myself from spiraling into an anxiety storm when things don't go right. But I too sometimes like to pretend like I'm powerful enough to control a situation. It's really cute until it's not. Control-seeking behavior can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. There are negative forms like manipulation and bullying, but it can also come out of respectful, open, and honest communication, which can be equally as problematic. The negative context of behaviors like manipulation and bullying are definitely problematic, but that's kind of a separate topic. Those are toxic behaviors, but in the context that they're being used to seek control, the control-seeking behavior right here is really what I'm trying to focus on. So whether you're expressing yourself negatively or positively, the goal of trying to control a situation is basically a moot point. And there's a strong nihilism that comes with that. I don't know if I'm using that term correctly. There's a strong sense of why even try that I usually struggle with when I think about this topic, which is a big reason why I usually don't like to. There's always that argument of, well, if I can't have a guarantee that things are gonna work out if I do my best, then why should I even show up in the first place? And honestly, I guess really the best answer to that is because it's the right thing to do for yourself, and just to make sure that you're showing up for yourself and you're always putting your best foot forward and asking for the things that you want. And I'd say more often than not, when you do that, things are going to somewhat fall in your favor. And I've definitely noticed that as I do that more for myself, even when things don't go well, I have a much more optimistic attitude because I'm bringing myself and saying, well, I did what I could. it's a lot easier to kind of take the hit on the shoulder and keep going when I know that I did the best that I could and it just still didn't work out. So that's kind of my observation on that. And I'm sure this is something that we all struggle with to some context. I know that I am particularly much more prone to it because control is a way that I see safety. I spend a lot of time trying to predict and analyze and anticipate, and that's all control based. I want to make sure that whatever is going on is going to be in this small range of okayness. So I don't think that the majority of us are kind of consistently thinking in those patterns. But I would also say that I'm sure we all sort of experience that in certain aspects of our life. There are things that it's an anxious response. It's how the human brain uses anxiety to respond to stimulus is to anticipate and try and overanalyze, and work itself like a horse. Why horse? Mule, donkey. Use all of these big animals for manual labor. It's just not fair. We carry our part of the load. And you may say, Craig, this doesn't sound like that big of a deal. It sounds like a personal problem. Sounds like you just have things that, are hard to accept when stuff doesn't go your way. And to that I say, good point, but the reason why I think that this does deserve its own sense of self-awareness and practice and looking inward for introspection is because it expresses itself in other areas of your life. So when I don't deal with the fact that I'm feeling like I can't control a situation, those toxic behaviors, that negative energy starts expressing itself into other portions of my life, and I will start expressing control over less powerful parts of my life that I feel like I have a better handle on. And that's really where it becomes problematic, when I am not aware that I am allowing one area of pressure to force my negative energy out into other parts of my life, so that I start treating my friends badly, or I start having temper tantrums at work, or I don't know, whatever it may be at that time. That's usually how I can see myself responding if I'm not dealing with the fact that I'm anxious about a situation and I'm not doing the self-work to accept that I have no control over that situation. It'll start seeping out into other places in my life, and that can become very damaging really quickly. So it's an important thing for me to keep a hold on and to watch. And it's also a complex issue. It's a weird thing. It took me a really long time to understand that that's what was going on. It's not so much of a cause and effect, it's a bleed over. And I wanted to point a little highlight at that and say, hey, look, just in case it's something that you struggle with as well. With that being said, I would like to urge you to open your heart to accepting the uncertainty of the universe. Just really small tasks. I'm sure you can do that, before bedtime. It's fine. You're fine. We're fine. Right? We're all fine. But seriously, life may be uncertain and we may never really know what's coming our way, but the best part of getting to know yourself is knowing that you always have a buddy. You always are going to have someone to rely on who is going to show up for you and to try their best and to bring everything they can to the table and, take the broken Legos and make something cool. And that's been a fun thing to figure out that we get to do in life. We get to build from the chaos. And that's neat. So, alright, that's all I have for you guys. As always, take care of yourself. Okay, bye.